October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I have Avia Rosen, who survived triple negative breast cancer, here to tell us how we can be prepared and what we need to do to make sure that we don't go through all of the pain she went through. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot. You're a mother of three. You were only 29 years old
Yes.
when you found out that you had breast cancer,
Yeah.
triple negative, BRCA
Yeah.
gene. For people out there who don't know what that is, the BRCA gene, can you explain?
So the BRCA gene, which I have, there's two different mutations. I have BRCA1, is a gene mutation in your DNA that essentially puts you at a risk of, for me, it was an 87% risk of lifetime risk of breast and or ovarian cancer. I didn't know I had it. I had no reason to test for it or to think I had it. I had no breast cancer history in my family. And when I found my lump on accident, not intentionally doing an exam or anything, I just felt something unusual. It prompted me to go get an ultrasound right away. And, let me just rewind for 1 second. When I felt it, I had that gut instinct that something was wrong. Even my mom, said, it's probably just you're 29 years old. It's probably just a cyst. You just finished nursing your second son. Like, it could just be a blocked duct. It could be, there was every reason to think it wasn't bad. But my husband, Doug, said, we're going in right away. I called my gynecologist, who said, you have an appointment in like 4 or 5 months. Let's just check it then. That would have been a big mistake. And we didn't listen. And my husband, thank goodness, was like, absolutely not. We're coming in immediately. And so I had the ultrasound done, which of course revealed that it looked troublesome, which then led me to a mammogram and a biopsy, which confirmed it was triple negative breast cancer. Because I was so young, they said, we have to test for this gene to see if you have it, because this just doesn't make sense with no family history. And so sure enough, we found out that I had it, and that's what set the course for how aggressive I'd be in my treatment. We decided to start. I've ended up with an incredible oncologist, Philomena McAndrew, who had a totally different course of treatment mapped out for me than the two other oncologists I met with, which is really, something that nobody prepares you for. You are having to essentially do a crash course in cancer when you never thought you'd have to, and you don't know how to make these decisions, and you have 3 doctors telling you 3 different things, and you have to somehow make this decision knowing nothing. It's really, really daunting. But she had this track record of survivorship with triple negative BRCA, BRCA1 positive mutation patients that spoke for itself. And so I said, I want her. And so she had an unusual order to things where she wanted me to start with chemo, which was unusual. Most people want to have surgery right away to cut it out. She wanted to start with chemo so that in the instance that, God forbid, it came back, she would know if this chemo works for me, because she could clearly measure it shrunk it, or it eliminated it, or it didn't work at all. So we did that. So we did 6 months of chemo, and I did the penguin cold caps to save my hair, which really worked very well. It really helped me not feel like a sick person, to not be bald and not to scare my children. And I have no regrets about doing that. I'm really happy I did that. And after the chemo, we had the double mastectomy, and then we did radiation after that. And the radiation was on and off, like they couldn't decide whether or not to do it, but in the end they said, listen, you have a recurrence risk of 9% of this ever coming back. If you do the radiation, it comes down to 2%. And I just couldn't leave that 7 on the table and always be looking over my shoulder. So it was a hard decision, though, because it essentially meant that the reconstruction we had started would be damaged by the radiation. And so we went for it and hoped for the best. And sure enough, the left side failed. And I had implant failure on the left. And we had to have an emergency surgery, which led to like 7 more surgeries. And I was with one breast for a year. Oh. And I had to like wear an insert prosthesis on the left while it healed. And then yeah, we had to take my latissimus muscle out of my back to rebuild. It was a lot of surgeries, a lot of rebuilding. I had the best reconstruction surgeon named Jay Oringer, who is masterful and put me back together, literally.
And then you recovered.
I recovered.
And you had another child.
I did. I needed the blessing of my doctors to tell me it was safe, but because I had triple negative, which means negative to all hormone, it's not receptive to any hormones, it meant that not only was having another child safe for me, it was it reduced my risk of it coming back. And so we went for it, and we had our third son, Elliot, and then they said by the age of 40 you should probably have a full hysterectomy and oophorectomy to reduce the risk of ovarian cancer and other cancers. And that one was a harder choice for me. That I put off, and I did it by 40, but I was really torn about it. It was just a quality of life change I wasn't feeling quite ready for, like menopause at 40, but I did it, and I'm so happy I did.
I mean, Avia, you have been through so much in your life, from the beginning as a teenager with addiction through breast cancer, and yet you sit here and you're so resilient and beautiful and strong. What would be your advice to women who are going through breast cancer now?
My advice to women going through breast cancer is just to know, if you even have the slightest concern, don't worry about, waiting to your next appointment. Don't worry about following the rules. Don't worry, just barge down those doctor's office doors and get in there, because it can mean the difference of saving your life. Like, had I waited for that oncology appointment, they said that cancer would have spread. That triple negative, aggressive, fast cancer would have spread and made it to your lymph nodes most likely. And then we would have been in a very different situation. So if you feel something, just reach out. And I know you guys hear it all the time, but do your exams. Check.
Right. And check for the BRCA gene, even if you don't have a family history, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have a family history.
It's like a saliva test. I mean, it's super easy. And I just think it's a personal choice, but I just think it's so much better to have the knowledge and know what you're looking for than to have your head in the sand and not know. So
thank you for sharing your story.
Thank
so
you.
glad to see you here radiating. You're so beautiful and strong, and you have such
As
a
are
beautiful
you.
family. And it's just so nice to see. And thank you again for being here. It means a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you saw it right here, Avia Rosen on Moms Matter, and we'll see you all next time.